There we go.
Oh, yay.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
So we're back. Let me lower this because it's a little bit loud for us. Okay. So we're back. And in honor of Easter, we're going to be talking today about the resurrection. I don't know if a lot of you know, maybe some of you do, maybe some of you don't. I don't know. But Easter is the celebration of Jesus's passion and his resurrection. What do you want to add something?
I think you got it right on point.
Okay. So I don't know. I feel like our audio keeps going in and out.
Yeah.
It's weird. So hopefully it doesn't do that to you guys.
Hopefully it's good.
But so it went totally out now. Can you guys hear? Yeah, I think they can hear us.
Okay.
Gosh.
Hopefully.
Okay. So we're going to talk about what is the evidence that there is for the resurrection. What do you think, Eddie? Do you think there's evidence? Do you think there isn't? Do you think it's all spiritual?
Okay, honestly, I'm going to just, say it. I feel like, it depends what kind of evidence you're looking for as well. But, I feel like, if you're reading the Bible, if you're reading it even, based on, you're not a religious person, if you're just reading it like for, critical analytical purposes or perspectives, I feel like you'll come to find, that is if you're reading New Testament, if you're reading the books, if you're reading, everything that encompasses the New Testament, you'll come to find like who Jesus is, right? His character, his persona,
his personality.
And in my personal experience that, trying to understand his persona, I noticed that he is a genius.
So he was advanced for the time that he was living in.
I honestly feel that he is someone who was definitely ahead of his time, for sure. And you see that time and time again when you're, reading these stories, these parables. And also he had many foretelling qualities too. So apart from being ahead of his time and knowing what was going to happen before it happened, he was also just a genius, very clever. And
I feel like he was also very like all-knowing.
Yes. So sometimes you get a sense of frustration. And it may be due to the fact that, like you mentioned, he knew it all. So he kind of felt like repetitive at times, and I feel like he really wanted his apostles to just grasp,
what he was thinking, what his ideas were, and what his plans were. And
he was very like focused, that you can tell that there was a motivation, there was a purpose, however you want to phrase it. It was there, and you can see that, I feel like he really wanted to be precise in what he had to come across, the things he wanted to come across, so that it made sense, but that it also was something that, they would understand, the people would understand. And something, he always had that, leader role, of course, but also a teaching role for everyone, and
which is why they used to call him rabbi.
Yeah.
Which is Hebrew. Is it Hebrew?
Yeah, for teacher.
For teacher. Yeah.
And he also, so yeah, I feel like however he went about his day, it was always, teaching something. And I feel like that was the easiest way for him to get his point across to the people, by teaching them, being the example. Always, right. He was always the example. So he would always make sure he did that.
Set the example for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a long story to talk about Jesus and, his life on earth. So, because I feel like we can get into that
Yeah.
in different episodes or different conversations, but today we really want to focus on his resurrection because that's what we're celebrating. So a lot of people kind of back then, I feel like there was a lot of hesitancy and a lot of people that lack believe or lack they lacked the belief that he did resurrect. They were
Mhm.
doubtful, scared, especially like his disciples were a little afraid because they didn't know what this was, what it meant, like, what is it going to entail?
I mean, I feel like, there was a lot going on at the time. I mean, you had Jews who didn't believe he was the Messiah, right? So you had that going on, and then you also had Gentiles, people who were hearing about him for the first time. And then you also had his apostles who were like believers and wanted everyone else to believe. So you had three types of situation going on, and maybe that's why made it difficult for some.
Yeah. And so this was something that was previously
Foretold. It was a
foretold.
prophecy.
It was a prophecy from even before Jesus was even born. So I don't know who it was exactly who prophesied that there was a king that was coming, and that that he was going to be the Messiah. And so I don't know if it was Daniel. Who do you say?
I think it was Samuel, but I mean, I
Eileen
could
thinks
be
it was Samuel. I think it
mistaken.
was Daniel. I don't know. We should have checked.
Yes, I know, very
But
responsible.
but
But-
there was somebody prophesied that Jesus was going to come, and that let me see if I can pull it
Yeah,
up
and
really
I
quick.
believe it was one of the last books in the Old Testament, if I'm not mistaken. I do believe it was one of the last books where it was told that a Messiah was going to come.
So his name was Isaiah. That's what it says. Among other changes, the New Translation tweaks the Old Testament text, Isaiah 7:14.
And to be honest, I was also thinking about that too. I was thinking about it might have been Isaiah. So
Isaiah really predicted the virgin's birth, or the virgin, yeah.
Yeah, the birth of Jesus. Right?
So yeah, so it was prophesied. And so there was a lot of like controversy with that because the king at the time, he was told there's a Messiah that's going to be born, a king that's going to be greater than you. And so that's when he decided, okay, well then we got to like find who this baby is and get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so, which that's another story.
Yeah, that is another story.
So it was prophesied that a king was coming. Okay. And so it's not just, I think, like, here's like, I don't think it was just made up.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting how this person prophesied it and it happened exactly the way he said. But okay. So we want to get into the resurrection because I feel like there's a lot that we need to talk about. But so mainly with the resurrection, how do we know it's real? How do we know he did resurrect? Like, what's the evidence that we have that would state, okay, it's true that he resurrected, other than text, other than the Bible? So what evidence do we have to prove that to people? It's like, let's say people that don't know about God or that don't know about Jesus's life. How do we explain to those people how the resurrection happened and if they believe it or not? Like, if we, so I looked up some I guess evidence points that are made. So one of them was, did Jesus in fact die?
Mm-hmm.
So because if somebody's going to resurrect, you have to make sure they're dead, right?
Yeah, that's
like you have
true.
to, like, they have to be dead in order for it to be a resurrection completely.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so there is indisputable evidence that Jesus died on the cross. Not only was he beaten, he was tortured, he was hung up on a cross, okay, with nailed to the cross, and for days, right? Was it a couple? It was like a couple days that he was on the cross, and so they also stabbed his rib to make sure that he was dead. So after he was stabbed in the rib, he had already passed. He had already passed away. So there was the Romans were there, the soldiers that brought him down from the cross after he passed away. So they had a tomb for him that somebody had given to Jesus so he can be
a resting place.
Yeah, so he can rest there. So there's evidence. Even an atheist, I think his name was Gerald Ludeman. He's an atheist that he was trying to figure out if he really did die, and so he did he came up with all that evidence that it's true. So that's like the first point. Okay, so there's other than that, like, of course, there's been writings like the Bible, right, that state that he did resurrect. And so there's creeds that date back months after Jesus had passed away, with eyewitness accounts, with people that saw that had experiences seeing him after he was already gone. So it's pretty interesting because if you're trying to prove something in court, right, and it's let's say it's between two people. So I don't know what they're called. I guess the one that's being accused and the accusee.
Yeah.
So you have to have eyewitnesses, right? That's which counts as evidence. Does that make sense? So a lot of these people that have that experience seeing Jesus after the resurrection, there was accounts that were written in the Bible, but there was also accounts out of the Bible that people, because Simon, Paul was the one that said, okay, there's hundreds of people that encountered Jesus resurrected, and don't take my word for it. Go and ask them yourself, And so that's how he was trying to kind of explain that there was a lot of people that encountered Jesus. Like, I don't know if you remember that one story where there was two men that were walking, and they were talking about the crucifixion of Jesus, and he comes up, but they don't know him because I guess he kind of can I don't know, I guess, make himself look unfamiliar, and so they were talking, and then he comes up to them, and he asks them, like, oh, what are you guys talking about? What happened? And so they tell him, oh, there was this man that was crucified, and he really didn't commit no crime. It just happened. And so that story's pretty interesting because it just happens to random people. Also, he did appear to the disciples a few times.
Yes.
So, and then there's the other time where he appeared to Thomas.
Yes.
Right?
Can I talk about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So he, I believe that's in the book of the Acts of the Apostles, and he, Thomas was actually the only one that wasn't really convinced.
He was doubtful.
Yeah, he was very doubtful. So, Jesus appears.
Yeah, because Thomas is kind of upset because Jesus had already appeared to the rest of the disciples. He was the only one that wasn't there. So Thomas was upset, and he's like, I'm not going to believe you guys unless I see him on my own, and I get to touch his wounds.
Yeah.
So that's the only way I'm going to believe.
Yeah. So when he sees Jesus tells him, you believe because you see, but blessed are those who believe without seeing. And that's it's a beautiful passage, man. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
It's a really good one. So I feel like for, if you're thinking about, Christians, all Christians who believe in Jesus,
without
that's
actually meeting him or
yeah.
seeing him or getting
Um,
having that relationship, like human relationship.
and that's actually what it is. That's what the resurrection is for everyone. Believing without having seen.
Yeah.
So, and that's just what faith is, in general.
Right. So yeah. So Thomas ends up, Jesus ends up appearing to Thomas again with all the disciples, and then he tells him that, but Thomas touches him and he realizes this is true. You are God, and I believe in you, and I trust in you. So that's pretty awesome.
But maybe it was also the fact that they hadn't seen anything like that before.
Yeah, it's something definitely
out of the world,
out of this
and
world.
Honestly,
yes,
that's how I would describe a lot of the events that take place.
Because if you really think about it, has there ever been anybody that has resurrected?
Yeah. So yeah, and that's what I'm saying. When you read about all these experiences,
other than Lazarus,
yeah, they're all out of the world experiences. And I feel like that's what made there be so many believers, because they have just never seen anything to that magnitude or scale.
Right.
So,
I think that even now people would not believe.
Yeah.
They would be like, it's a hoax, or it's not, like, we're going to disprove this. And there could be like a lot of people who just say lies to try to disprove something. But I mean, okay. So that was one of the really cool appearances. The other appearance was when, I think, was Saul.
Yes.
Saul was persecuting the apostles. And so he's on his way, and I think I wrote down the place where he was on his way to
Damascus, right?
Yes. He was on his way to Damascus, and Jesus appears to him, right? But he's the only one that can see him. Nobody else can see him.
Yeah, no one else.
Because he was with like a little group of people.
Yeah.
And they tell him, so Jesus tells him, why are you persecuting me?
But I guess it was so bright, he couldn't really see, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So he was just like, he could hear him talking to him, but he like couldn't see.
He couldn't see his face.
Yeah.
And he was just like, who are you? And he's like, it's, why are you persecuting me? And so he realizes it's Jesus. And he's like, wait, this isn't true. You're gone.
Yeah.
So then he goes blind.
Yeah, he goes blind for some time.
Yeah, for some time. And then during that time, hold on, I wrote about that. Let me see. Let me explain to you guys. Okay. So he appeared. Okay. So he goes blind, and then Jesus appears to Ananias, and he tells him, go find Paul. Go find, is it Simon?
It's Saul.
Saul. Go find Saul. And I have chosen him as one of my disciples that's going to proclaim my word to the whole world. So, and at this, Saul was very educated.
Yeah, he was a Pharisee.
He was a writer. He was educated. He was a very good speaker.
Yeah, that faction of Jews are the educated ones.
Yeah.
I mean, there's different factions, but yeah, they know how to write.
Yeah.
Right? That's one important thing. I don't think they needed a scribe, if I'm not mistaken.
No, yeah. And then so Ananias goes, finds him, and then he tells him, like, do you know me? You tried to persecute me and my family. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And so he kind of like places his hands on his eyes, and he tells him, Jesus sent me, and he, wants you to proclaim his word all over the world. And so then he takes his hands off, and then he's able to see. He restores his sight. So that's when he's like, oh my gosh, like, this is so magical.
That transformation, that spiritual transformation.
He does have a transformation, and Ananias also baptizes him.
Yes, he does.
So,
and he becomes Paul, right?
And he becomes Saint Paul. So, and he's actually one of the what is it? the disciples, one of the disciples that brings a lot more people to Jesus because he is able to travel, he is able to like explain himself and write and send letters and do all this stuff. And travels the furthest, right?
Yeah, he does. He does. And you know what? He was a very bold person as well. You know, he would go into the synagogues
and just start
yeah
going off, like he
Yeah.
starts saying, talking of Jesus' word and everything, which is awesome, dude.
Yeah, he
like
was very motivated.
yeah, he was.
Very.
And I'm glad that he had a change of heart.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing, so we talked about the eyewitnesses, right? So we have that actually Jesus actually died,
yes.
and then we had the witnesses that actually saw him being, or resurrected. The next thing would be the empty tomb.
Mhm.
So this tomb, when Jesus passed away, this tomb was sealed, right, with a 3 to 4,000 ton
Yes.
rock, stone that closed it.
Mhm.
And not only that, but there was Roman soldiers there
Who would
guarding it.
Yeah.
Not only that, there was a chain with a lock that was across from like the big,
Mhm.
what is it, the stone. So, and if anybody was to have broken that chain, it was punishable by death.
Mhm. Which there was, like you mentioned, guards in the front, so
There
they
was
would have
guards.
seen something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So that was very so it was guarded 24/7. So how would somebody have gotten in there and stole the body? How would they move the rock? How would they have broken the seal?
Yes.
Like, dude, So there's another reason. So we did talk about the eyewitnesses that confirmed and they corroborated the stories, and they seen Jesus inside and outside of the Bible. So Jesus appeared for a period of 40 days.
Mhm.
Okay. And then so the other thing would be the disciples.
Yes.
They're themselves, I think, evidence of the resurrection, because these men, when Jesus died, okay, and he was crucified and he was buried, these men were scared for their lives.
Mhm.
Like they were afraid. They were being persecuted, and if they were to get caught, they would get punished.
Punishable by death.
Yeah, they would
right?
be punished. So they were afraid, like after
Yeah.
Jesus's death. So all of a sudden, after
So
Jesus, Jesus has, you want to
I
add?
feel like he appears to them for these 40 days to kind of guide them of
And encourage
what he
them.
wants them to do, right? And then you have Pentecost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they I feel like that was the purpose
He was there to help our the disciples, to give them courage and to tell them, I did resurrect. Here I am.
Mhm.
And I'm here to help you and to tell you, to prove to you that what I was saying was true.
Mhm.
And so now you guys have to continue my legacy, or continue my words, and preach to everybody the truth. And so that was pretty interesting too, like that these disciples became fearless after, Jesus resurrected. So the other thing would be that a body was never found either. Okay, so how can somebody go in there, steal the body, right?
Mhm.
Where are you going to put it to take it out of where these guards are? Like, okay. So, and then plus the Romans were there, so
Yeah.
they would have had to reproduce a body to prove that, oh no, he's here, somebody took him out, or we caught them, or whatever. So yeah, that's another reason why the resurrection is legit, right? Like, come on.
Yeah.
So I want to get a little bit into like the disciples, because the disciples were like a big part
They were
in the resurrection and everything that happened, and their mission and the lengths they went to prove that the word of God, and to teach the word of God.
And to be honest, they are the role models for, every
Right.
Christian today, because I mean, they were, blind faith, and they were willing to die for it. They were willing
and they did die
to
for
give
it.
their lives, be martyrs for what they truly believed in. So that's deep.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the disciples, because a lot of them, were killed because of, you know, them following Jesus and spreading the word. And to them back then, they didn't see Jesus as as God. Right? They thought that he was just like making things up, and he was how do you say it? Blaspheming. So like Peter, so like these disciples gave their life for God. So like Eileen said, the perfect example of martyrs. So martyrs are people that die for their faith, and they die with their faith intact. So like Peter died crucified.
Dude, I want to talk about it.
Okay, you talk about it.
Okay, so we have Peter, he was
I want to say a leader role.
yes,
like the leader.
Definitely leader role. And you can see that time and time again when you're reading, the New Testament. You can see that time and time again. And so Peter was crucified upside down. He was, because that was his request. He didn't feel he was worthy of, being crucified the same way Jesus was. So he definitely had a deep love for him and reverence.
Yeah,
So,
they were like best friends.
Yes, they were best friends. That's what I truly believe.
He was his first disciple too,
Yes,
right?
his first disciple.
I mean, of course, his mother was always like,
yes,
the first one that.
But I felt like Peter was definitely important for him to leave his church and his people, so he played a big role.
And he told him plenty of times after the resurrection, he did tell Peter,
yes.
Do you love me? And Peter would say yes, and he would say, then I want you to guide my sheep.
Guide my sheep. There you go. You see it time and time again. Right. You just
and
really
then so Saint John, I love Saint John. He's one of my patron saints.
Yeah.
So Saint John, he was very outspoken, very brave. He was the one that baptized Jesus in the river, and he was also his cousin. So he was also a martyr. So his death was beheaded. Like, so I guess they beheaded him. So which is I don't know. It just hurts my heart. Like, these men died so bad. Saint Andrew. Well, was Andrew related to somebody?
He was Peter's brother.
Peter's brother. Okay. Do you want to talk about him?
So he was crucified in an X shape.
Right. And that was his request as well, because he also felt like he wasn't worthy to be crucified the same way that Jesus was.
So you just see this, dying belief, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's just very strong, very powerful.
So St. James was also beheaded. St. John. So St. John was the one that wrote. Was he the one that wrote the
Book of Revelations?
The Book of Revelations.
Because he would see visions. So
he had to get.
Yeah, it was things that were revealed to him. So he had his own purpose as well.
So he was what is it called when they make them leave? Like,
he exiled.
Yeah. So he was exiled, and during this his that time, he would have visions, and he would write his visions and what would happen. So he did write a lot of the Book of Revelations.
Yes.
So he was actually, they tried to like boil him alive, and he survived. Nothing happened to him. But he ended up, eventually he died from natural causes. So, that's interesting, that like he was able to survive that. So St. Philip was crucified, and Bartholomew was stoned and beheaded.
Wow.
Matthew was what? I can't even read my writing, you guys. But it looks like stone. I don't know. But
Yeah,
yeah, Matthew was killed too. And then Thomas was stabbed, and James was stoned and clubbed, and Simon was also stoned.
Wow.
So those were the ones that I can find, that I was able to find.
Very brutal.
Yeah, so
Brutal.
it was all brutal deaths, and it's sad, and it's like these men believed in Jesus till that they gave their life for him.
Hard belief.
Yeah, so that's like the strongest example of faith and
and they're like role models.
Devotion. Yeah. And they are role models. And I guess, that's something that we all need to live by, to kind of like these men gave their lives in order for us to be able to read this book, that with the word of God that he left behind.
Yeah, to know who Jesus is.
Yeah. And like somebody told me once, like somebody that that were cool, like told me that like the Bible was like a manual to life, how to live your life. And I think that's true. Like it is, because we all want to live our lives as like best as we can and be as good of people as we can. So I feel like it is like in sorts of a manual. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you think? That's all I have. My little research.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's why for us, like we definitely respect, a Good Friday. We respect the whole Easter week, because this is a time that a man was, I mean, even if people don't believe, but I think it was one of the worst like tortures in history, that like that happened to this man that didn't do anything wrong. He was just trying to be trying to set an example and bring the word of God to us. And, a lot of people saw that as like maybe threatening, or maybe like it wasn't real.
Too revolutionary.
Yeah. And so he was killed and tortured because of that. And I feel like, wow, like that's,
yeah.
So even if for people that aren't religious, like it's a time to really reflect and think about it, and what this person went through, what God went through for us, and to save us, So yeah, I know it's a little sad. It's a little sad one, but I feel like it's important for us to kind of, because some people, like, I feel like if it helps someone, then that's awesome. So yeah. So I don't know if you guys want to share anything, let us know. If you, what are your traditions for Easter? What do you guys do? We'd like to know. But yeah.
Other than that, that's a wrap. That's for this one.
So I hope you guys enjoy this conversation, and then we'll be back next week. So hopefully you guys can tune in.
Yes. Thank you for watching.
Have a happy Easter. Bye.
Bye.